So what do you guys think a coincidence is?
Well, look at it this way. I always think, this is sort of a coincidence, but not sort of a coincidence. 24 hours in a day, 24 beers in a case. I mean,
Welcome to The Outliers Inn, produced by the Operational Excellence Society and sponsored by Zonatech Consulting Group International, with your hosts, Joseph Paris and David Schneider.
Well, hey there, everybody. Welcome to The Outliers Inn. I'm your host, Mule. And on the other end of the earth is my co-host, JP. How are you doing, JP?
Not so bad, Mule, not so bad. How about yourself?
Oh, well, I'm glad that robotics season is over with. The final event of the season is for the kids is they have their banquet. And so the banquet is traditionally the new incoming leadership plans the banquet. And in past years, it's been held in the cafeteria, but last year we did it at a park and underneath a big gazebo and did it again that way. The kids love it outdoors because as soon as they're done eating, they're done with all their official festivities. They all go out in their best clothes and play frisbee out in the grass. And
Awesome.
So it's so much fun watching. Like this year, there was 70 kids who showed up at the banquet along with some parents, and they all dressed up. Almost all the kids dressed up. And so it's fun to watch these nerd kids show up in dresses and dress pants and dress shirts.
Nice.
And, so they look pretty sharp. And then alumni show up. They're kids who graduated from 3 and 4 years ago that come back to visit at the banquet. And so they always tend to show up. And a good time was had by all. Officially, they overbought food again, which they do every year.
And we so make a donation. Did
Yeah.
the returning students participate in the banquet then?
Oh, yeah. They participated, they ate, and then, went out and played ultimate frisbee with the whole gang. And so it was a pretty awesome time. So how about you, man?
And I've been busy this year like nobody's business. In fact, I could feel myself fading a little bit today. I might hit the hay early. But I'll tell you, the airports and the airlines, there's no seats. I mean, the place is freaking packed.
Yeah.
I'm on a 787, 900 coming across from Newark to Frankfurt. And I know that I'm doing this too long because first off, the steward is recognizing me. Okay. He's like, haven't I seen you on this flight before? I said, yeah, this is my normal monthly trip. And I gotta tell you, at Newark, I'm not going to mention the restaurant. I know that you guys know it because of Facebook, but I'm not going to mention the restaurant because I get there and they set me up in a nice little, cubicle or, private table. And they bring out this 750 milliliter bottle of sparkling water. And they even gave me a chilled vodka, which is one of my staples there. And I didn't ask for it. They also knew it was chilled, not ice, not anything else. They knew it was chilled. But their new menu system at OTG in Newark is terrible. It's just a terrible, terrible menu system. And I submitted my order without being able to take my 20% discount, because I'm a, United, blah, blah, blah. But the manager didn't know how to, give me the 20% discount. So he took my extra large wine off the bill, which was more than 20%. So,
wow.
It's good to be known there.
Well, I guess I'm going to run into that problem when I fly through Houston next week because OTG rules Houston Bush also.
Yeah, I'll tell you, OTG and the menu system, the food is great at this restaurant. Like I said, the best steaks I've ever had are at Newark Airport. Who would have figured, right? But the service is outstanding. It's the menu system that really just sucks. So what are you going to do? But man, I have been just so busy. And then part of my last trip, I spent a week in Binghamton because my intrepid technologist, Chaz, who makes all technology work and keeps it working, was setting me up with a new notebook. and I got like a top of the line Dell everything. And today is the first day I actually brought it online. I was doing some prep work, updating drivers and all that other nonsense, but I was porting over the data from my old system to my new system, and really just bringing it online, because now that the data is all on my new system, I can't go back to the old system, right? Just to maybe surf the net or whatever it is, but
Yep.
I can't. So, but I'm keeping it on standby over the next week or so, just in case I have to go back and find something and forage it. But I gave Chaz a complete dump of all the apps that I have on the system, which, by the way, are almost exclusively Microsoft. And there's a couple of odd things like, the apps that I use to, edit video and audio and, all the Adobe suite that I've got and everything else. But it's really, if I look at how many different apps I'm running on this thing, native on the computer, it's very, very little. Most of it's in the cloud, if it's not on my computer. So I thought that was kind of remarkable, because I remember the last time I brought online a notebook, it was the vice versa. I had tons of apps that had to be installed and configured, and conflicts are being sorted.
So do you just use one notebook computer and that's it?
That's it. I use one.
See, I have a different challenge, and my challenge is that because I'm in the studio here, and so there's a computer here that's dedicated to the studio. There's in the shop behind this wall, which is the Outliers Inn, but on the other side, there's 7 computers back there, and some of those computers are running machines. So they're dedicated to a CNC machine, or they're dedicated to another CNC machine, or it's a machine that's tied to the warehouse system for receiving and inventory maintenance back there in the shop. Of course, there's a server upstairs. There's 3 other computers upstairs. There's one that's a dedicated CAD workstation. And so, and I have 2
there's
notebook
more
computers. I have 2 notebook computers I use now, because I've had the unpleasant experience of living through having a notebook die on the road. And so I live in a situation where I'm constantly backing data up across in the network, but also different places in the cloud, so that I can reach my data from anywhere securely. And, but also have dedicated machines to specific functions.
right.
Because if I tried to do everything on the same notebook, I'd have to spend $4,000 on a notebook to have one that has the horsepower and storage to do all the different things that I do. And I wouldn't use it back there in the shop. That's why I have the shop computers,
Right.
where
Right.
I can buy a $600, notebook to run one of those CNC machines.
Yeah,
So-
mine was like $3,200. And the funny thing is, I got a 17-inch screen. It's got the same footprint as my 15-inch screen, my older computer.
Mhm.
Of course, it's got much higher resolution. I'm pleased with it. I did make the giant leap from classic shell Windows 10 to Windows 11, which is like a whole different world. And moments of frustration, but it's not so bad. So
Yeah.
How do you like the Windows 11 interface?
getting used to it. I do like the virtual screens though, the virtual, like built-in virtual workstations. It's really cool. Yeah, so that's almost worth the price of admission. Yeah, for sure. Because now I could actually have some of my cloud apps running separately from my desktop apps, like all my Microsoft stuff. So yeah, it's but oh well, what are you gonna, hopefully my old computer lasted 8 years, not kidding you, 8 years. Now I had to replace a couple of fans. I had to replace the battery, even though it's a lie that those lithium batteries explode, because we shot it and we tried to do everything else at Don's place, and it just wouldn't catch fire. I mean, we really tried.
We beat it with a hammer, and
I know. And I also
you abused the battery.
Yeah, and I also replaced the hard drive with the solid state, and that probably gave it another 4 years worth of life because everything really took off. I mean, it was a lot faster then. So
Yeah, my war horse Fujitsu, it lasted 5 years and then it was really dragging down, and I replaced the hard drive, the spinning disk with the chips, and that gave it another 3 years of life.
Yeah, same here. So today's topic is about coincidences.
Yeah,
it is.
It's a coincidence we keep talking about this digital stuff.
Yeah. Well, is it a coincidence, or is it just ingrained in our livelihood? I mean, it's I got to share a crazy story. Talk about coincidences. Okay, I'm out there in Denver and minding my own business. You get out of work, you go back to the hotel, you're hanging out at the bar, and you chat it up with whoever's around you, because if you're drinking alone, that's a problem. So if you're chatting up somebody, it's not a problem anymore. And I met up with this group from NASA. Okay. And we're chatting there, and I'm telling them about how much I grooved on NASA as a kid. I wanted to be an astronaut, a pilot, blah, blah, blah. Of course I had these spectacles, which negated all that way back then. I guess it doesn't matter as much now, but they're there in Denver, and I found out that they're all pilots, and they're involved in a program called Sophia. And it's a really cool program. They have a vintage 747 that's got a gigantic hole cut in the fuselage. I mean, like not a little hole, like a big freaking hole. Right. And they fly around with a infrared telescope. And their mission is to be dispatched to some pinpoint on the globe. So latitude, longitude, altitude, and velocity. Okay. And they have to fly to this place, and they have a 4-second or less window of opportunity to snap what they're supposed to snap.
With that telescope.
With that telescope. 4-second or less window of opportunity to take that picture. All right. So we were chatting there, and I'm pretty impressed. And, they gave me patches and stuff like that, which is really cool. But then they said, "What are you doing tomorrow?" And I said, "Well, I got to go to work." But and they said, "Well, that's too bad, because, we'd take you up in the sim." And I said, "Well, hold on." I got my phone out, and I said, "I'm going to be late tomorrow." I'm going to go up in a simulator. How cool is that? So they're on a training exercise, and it's a vintage 747 simulator. When I say vintage, it's all analog. There's no displays. There's none of the digital stuff, the cool stuff that they have today. And so, we taxied out onto the runway at SFO, San Francisco, and we took off, and we flew around the Bay Area, around the Golden Gate, out to Napa, and then we landed it. So it was like 30 minutes in the sim, 40 minutes in the sim. And that, I'll tell you what, was really, really cool. And the guy was my coach. He used to fly for Evergreen Airlines. And I don't know if you know who Evergreen Airlines is, but if you ever heard of Air America, they were the successor of Air America, and the stories those guys were telling, dropping the names to protect the innocent and things like that. But it was really, really, really cool meeting those folks. So
yeah, if you needed to if you absolutely needed to get something to someplace on the globe covertly and have absolute deniability, Air America was your company.
They were telling me about flying around 747s that were white, no markings on it whatsoever, just like white. And one thing I didn't know, that nuclear weapons, when they're transported, they're actually transported in 2 parts, and both parts have to be together in order for it to be lethal. Each one part is lethal in its own right, but only on a micro scale compared to when they're merged. I didn't know that. But pretty fail safe.
So is it a coincidence that you got to take a trip in the sim? I don't think so. It was an opportunity.
It was an opportunity.
That's an opportunity. Now here's a coincidence. I have been in a simulator, in a full motion simulator, not a 747, but even more vintage than a 747, and that would be a DC-8. Because UPS and Airborne Express and for a while FedEx used DC-8 freighters.
Right.
And so UPS, I got a chance to go through UPS's DC-8 simulator, and actually fly it. We circled SFO, and there was one of one of the other people that I was with that took off from SFO and went to go land at Ontario and pancaked us into the runway. He came down and it was like, oh, we're heavy. And it's like the sim coach is going, pull up, pull up, pull up, smack. When I was in the air and we were coming into an airport that I'm very familiar with, which is MCI or Kansas City International, there was a storm squall to the west, and I was trying to slide into the runway before that storm squall was going to hit. And in the storm line, I could say, well, wait a second, that looks like a tornado over there. We're going to go around, call for alternate airport, and pull up, come around. And that's when the sim operator went, boy, you really caught that one, because if you tried to land, I would have flipped your ass.
So is it a coincidence that both of us have flown a sim, but I believe one of our guests has actually flown a actual airplane. Have you, David, flown an airplane? I mean, actually, like off the ground?
Me?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Have you? Okay.
Yeah.
So you and I got sims, and you and Don, the beer man, is joining us. And Don is a semi-accomplished pilot. He's put it down for a couple of years, but how far did you get in the program, Don?
Oh, I got 65 hours in. I was right before I was supposed to do my solo cross country, and it just ran out of time. I had so many other things going on. I wish I'd finished it. I really wish I'd finished it, but oh well, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
that was a lot of fun.
So let's talk about coincidences, the theme. These things are not coincidences, I guess. I've owned a business, as you know, since 1985. I'll tell you what I think is a coincidence, and it's not a coincidence. I have things I call disturbances in the force. You go through your day and everything is like the way it should be, whether you see it or not, feel it or not, but there's a disturbance in the force where something's not quite right. And owning a business, the most often times that I've felt these disturbances in the force was when somebody's going to leave the company.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, there's a series of events that I observe or I feel. But, if somebody's going to leave the company, that they're going to leave the company, that's the way it is. And that's okay, because every person that's ever left the company by their, initiative or mine, has always bettered themselves, except for one person who had a substance abuse problem. That didn't work out so well, but everybody else bettered themselves. So I don't want to keep somebody that's got their eyes on the next shiny thing. You know what I mean? It just,
yeah.
But there's a process that occurs, and there's call it the phone calls. You know what I mean? That they might want to just step out of the office for a phone call. Just stupid little things like that. That just is atypical behavior for the person. And I pick up on that. So is it a coincidence? I don't know. What is a coincidence? Maybe we should ask Esther, because she's really quite philosophical. So Esther, you there? No, did we lose Esther?
I didn't think so.
No,
She's
I
muted.
didn't think so either. She's
Esther.
muted. Maybe she's getting a cup of tea or whatever they do in the UK at this time of day.
Oh,
so
hopefully it's not a coincidence that we can't hear her.
Yeah, no, I'm sure she'll be back in a second. So what do you guys think a coincidence is?
Well, look at it this way. I always think, this is sort of a coincidence, but not sort of a coincidence. 24 hours in a day, 24 beers in a case. I mean, come on.
Good point. So, I don't know if anybody's a fan of NCIS, but I'm talking about Gibbs Rule 39, which is there's no such thing as coincidences.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, I'm at a stretch to figure out if I've ever had a true coincidence that's like stark. You know what I mean? Like just like a deja vu moment or anything like that. What about you guys?
Well, I was thinking about this, and a coincidence, according to dictionary, is a remarkable concurrence of events or circumstances without apparent casual or causal connection. It's causal connection. So it's occurrences that don't appear to be causal of each other. They just happen together. So these people met by coincidence. Well, okay. But could you meet by coincidence, a couple of peers working for different companies go to the same conference and you meet by coincidence? No, that's not a coincidence. You were both at the same event because it's your career. So you didn't meet by coincidence. That was opportunity. Coincidence is you met at the beach and you found out that you weren't that you were in the same industry or in the same business. That perhaps is a coincidence.
Okay, but, so that's interesting, because several years ago, I was in London. All right, and it's springtime, so I've got a sweater on and a turtleneck, and it's probably 50 degrees, 52 degrees. So it's, for an upstate New Yorker, it's not that cold. And walking towards me is this guy that is dressed like the Michelin Man, and is looking like he's on the final assault to the summit of Everest. All right, and he's walking towards me, and I'm walking towards him, and we meet up, and it's actually my good friend and partner from South Africa. Okay, from Cape Town. Right. Now, he had no idea I was in London, and I had no idea he was in London. So, I mean, that's coincidence, I would guess, by your definition.
Yes, because yes, you know each other, you've worked with each other, but you had no idea that both of you were in London. It wasn't planned or anything else. And so meeting up blindly on a street unplanned, yeah, that's a coincidence.
That's a coincidence.
I had a real.
Go ahead, Don. Sorry.
I had a real good one. I was on this job down in Florida, and right down the road, they had this nice little Irish pub. So I was down there enjoying a Guinness, waiting for my dinner to come up. And now, mind you, I live in this little town called May, New York, and I live up on top of this hill that's got a 1,450-foot elevation, and there's not many people around. And here I am sitting in this bar, and down in, where was it? Shoot.
It was in Florida.
It was Palm Bay. It was by Palm Bay. And anyways, I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I hear Don, and I'm like, I turn around. It's my next door neighbor. The guy lives 200 feet from me. And I'm like, and his wife is sitting there telling him, that's not Don Birching. You're not going to see him. That's not him. You're going to go up and make a fool of yourself. So he goes up, and we started talking. I says, what are you doing down here? He goes, we come down here every winter for about 3 months to get out of the cold.
That's crazy stuff.
That was a good one.
But coincidences on a larger scale. Okay, we all sit here, all three of us, four of us, including Esther. We all walk the earth. All right. So inevitably, we're going to meet somebody probably that also walks the earth. But I'm trying to think of any more grand coincidences that I might have ever had. If we think about, Gibbs Rule 39, there are no coincidences. Happenstance meetings are one thing, but anything of real magnitude, that was a coincidence that you guys could remember.
Major magnitude.
Gosh, that's a tough one.
Huh? Yeah.
Well, I run into stuff all the time where it's like, I'll be thinking about somebody, or I'll be thinking about a customer or something like that. Next thing you know, the phone rings. I mean, within minutes of this stuff coming into my head, and they're like, and I'm like, I was just thinking about you. And it's like, yeah,
but you wonder, were you thinking about them because you're about ready to do something with them? There was some sort of, transaction. They just called you out of the blue.
Yeah. I've had that on numerous occasions where I've had that happen. I don't know. I must be psychic, you know.
I think,
don't know.
sorry to say, to interrupt, but I think you are, Don, because it looks like it. Because if you are thinking of someone and that somebody calls you or sends you an email or something like that, I mean, what is the, obviously you might have a lot of customers or friends or people, but that it happens to you quite a lot, then you think you start, as you were just saying, thinking you're psychic, right? So maybe you are psychic.
Yeah, it must be.
So-
You know,
so
and
that's-
there's just no apparent causal connection to it other than you know them, they know you,
Yeah.
and you're thinking about them. Well, maybe, you know, the causal connection is that your brain vibes travel through space.
That must be
So-
what
And
it is.
arrive
So
in
does
their
this
heads.
so this is apply to when I'm sitting there, you know, waiting for Joe to come in and going, please bring scotch. Please bring scotch. Please bring scotch.
Yes.
Oh, that's
Yes.
not a coincidence. You know you could count on me for that. You know? So Esther, you're one of the more philosophical amongst us here. What do you think about coincidences?
Well, I have to tell you, years ago, I was always wondering about coincidences in my life when I was not really understanding life, not really understanding what life was about, not understanding what I was doing here in this crazy planet with all these crazy humans around me. So I always kind of thought, you know, coincidences must be something randomly, like we were just saying. But after my life completely changed a few years ago, then I started to understand that for me, at least, you know, not everybody is the same. Coincidences don't exist at all. So for me, life is very much about things have to happen because there is a reason for that to happen. There is a reason why you had to meet these people for you to go into this scene, or there is a reason why you had to take that flight and land well, and somebody else took another flight and they crash. There is always a reason. So for me, I believe that coincidences are just like a result of caprice, you know, like in French, like it's just something that happens because life wants it like that. I think that life is more complex than we can ever perceive. And if we have a meaning or a reason to be in a place and meet special people, that for me is not a coincidence. It could be in the good way or in the bad way, right? I could meet people I don't really want to meet, or I can go through experiences I don't want to go through. But there is a reason why I have to go through that. And for me, I don't believe things are random. I think that I'm doing what I'm doing because there is a reason for it. There's a reason why I have to be here right now talking to you about this, even though maybe I was thinking, oh, I have to be in the beach like everybody else because it's bank holiday. But there is a reason why I'm sitting here talking about this. And the same thing for me to, for example, meeting people I haven't met for a long time. And then I'm walking on the street and then suddenly I meet them. And maybe I have been thinking, oh, these people, I don't see them again. And then I meet this type of people again, and I have a chat with them, and I get this confirmation thinking, that's why I'm not meeting these people anymore. These are people I'm not supposed to meet anymore because they are from my past. They are people I'm not supposed to meet again. And that's it. It's the end of my chapter, my previous life. And now my life is different and I'm meeting other type of people. And so there is always a reason why I meet certain type of people that they might bring just a little message in that moment, or they might bring me an experience I have to just go through. But definitely for me, there is not a coincidence. Otherwise, I would not understand how life functions and how life comes together and how a flower is created and how a mountain is created. And then life is too difficult for me to understand. if I don't,
Things happen.
if I believe
Things
that
happen for a
coincidence-
reason.
Right.
You know, I'm thinking about this song in the 60s, you know, for every, it had to do with, there's a reason for everything. And I forget the name of the song. I'll have to look it up and maybe add a snippet to the, you know, to the beginning of the reel. But yeah, you think
The
about.
refrain is turn, turn.
That's it. Turn, turn, turn. That's it. Yeah, thank you. Oh, man. So yeah, thanks for that, David. I'll have to find that and add it to as a snippet to the
Yeah,
snippet
thanks
in
for
the
that. That'll be
beginning.
in my head the rest of the day.
Yeah, right.
Earworms.
Yeah. So you know, obviously, Esther is firmly in the Gibbs rule number 39 camp. There is no such thing as coincidences. And
See,
for us to sit here and really be stretching for instances, and we knew what the topic was going to be. This is not something that we, you know, that was sprung on us. It's no coincidence that we're talking about it, right? That we are stretching to come up with is something credible that could prove that coincidences do exist.
well, they do in different realms. And I did some research knowing that this was, you know, this was the topic. And yeah, the history of the word is interesting. You go back to what its roots are, and medieval Latin, it meant agreement, to coincide, to agree. And in the 17th century, it meant occupation of the same space. So in physics and in data communications, where you have more than two signals simultaneously in the same circuit, you have a coincidence. So that's a technical term used for it. And so you do have a collision of events. You have this thing going on where you have these messages occupying the same space at the same time. And it's random when it happens. So, you know, that was interesting to me, that it's a coincidence is a collision. And some, you know, is it an accident? And so you start playing around with some of the words, you know, what's another word? Go to your thesaurus, and what do you find as the alternatives for coincidence? Accident, chance, luck, fate, serendipity, fluke, freak, fortune, destiny. So, you know, here's all
there's
these
people going to do research on this. What's up with that? You're actually,
I came prepared. I did my homework,
I guess so,
baby.
geez.
But you know,
I was thinking on doing some of that, and I thought better of it.
well, you know, because when I sat down and started to think about it, it's you know, it's the same struggle as can I put my finger on a big coincidence? There's lots of little coincidences that I've run into in my life, but do I know of something that's historically coincident? And so that's when I went, do I really understand what the word means? And
So it's got to be unplanned.
definition.
It's got to be
Yeah.
unplanned, you know. So
And you
so,
don't see,
you know,
and the causal, there's no cause.
Right.
There's no apparent causal connection.
right. So Esther has some thoughts on this. Care to share there, Esther?
Go ahead. You want to read them?
Well, I'm not
No,
going to
no,
read
no.
them.
You speak them.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
speak them.
Well, I mean, Carl Jung will go a little bit further, and I will say that a coincidence becomes meaningful, then it becomes a special kind of coincidence called synchronicity. And that's what I really follow, the Carl Jung's definition of life, that when you are living in a type of life that it's more aligned to what you're here to do as your experience as being human, then things are happening to you. People, if you need, I don't know, help to create, let's say that I need a video software to create my own.
You're fading out there, Esther.
Sorry, then I might, so let's say that I need somebody to help me with creating videos, and I don't know how to create videos. And then I might get a friend calling me and say, oh, look, how are you doing? And I say, well, look, yeah, I need this kind of help with creating software for videos. Oh yeah, I know this software and all this. And, so I might be able to, right on the spot, a little bit what Don was saying, connect to the right person and get the right answer. Or I might grab a book and open the book, and right on the page I open the book, I get an answer to something I was looking for. So for me, these are little bits of magic occurrences that happen in life that I follow Carl Jung's perspective of synchronicity. That things, then you are living in a state of flowing. Your life is not full of pain and suffering and stress, and then life flows and things become aligned. A little bit like nature. Nature, you can see nature is aligned when you look at it, and it's flowing and it's powerful. So I think that's for me the meaning of what, or the understanding of what coincidence means for me now.
So
This is
when I
what's happening
Google
now in my
something,
life.
so when I Google something and I find it, so that's a coincidence?
No, because that is no, but you might find, for example, you might want to find exactly something else. You might just, it's like, for example, you grab it's like you grab a book and you want to just look for the word shoe, right? You go and open that book and you find the encyclopedia and you find the word shoe. But no, that's simple. That's not meaningful. That's not. But if you're looking for something that is not easy to access and that you need somehow an external or something that is more different or that takes an extra effort to achieve, then life can come to you and things can happen to you, like when you were in that place and you met this group of the NASA people. That might not happen again to you ever again. There is a lot of things that we think, oh well, that was lucky. Oh, I'm so lucky that I met these people. No, you were not lucky. You were meant to meet these people. You were meant to go through that experience for whatever reason. You haven't told us the reason. You didn't tell us what brought you for you to be there and to go through that experience. That's what we need to understand.
Well, I was there on a job and I was just done with work for the day and I was having a glass of wine. I'm very predictable.
And wanted to talk to people and not be accused of being an alkie.
That's right. That's right. I wasn't.
Here's something that Esther's bringing up, and it is years ago, a compatriot of mine called this, he listened to me talking about this and he says, you just defined the divine attributes. And it was, if you are truly in the moment, you're in the zone, all sorts of magic opens up for you. Everything that you need to know, if you're fully in the moment, paying attention, everything that you need to know, all power, all knowledge becomes available to you that you need to apply to what you're doing. When you're in the zone, it seems like that. It's magic. Everything you need is there. You can make this happen. Things are, things flow. And, you've got to, it's when you reach that state that, it's divine. What comes out is divine. So what are those attributes that you have to have in place? And what Esther was bringing up was you have to be there. You have to be alive. You have to be paying attention. You were paying attention at the time when you were there having a drink. Here's some folks that look interesting. Let me chat them up. I mean, if they didn't look interesting, would you have still chatted them up?
Probably.
Oh,
just what I
okay.
do. Yeah.
It's what you do.
Yeah, that's what I do. I mean, I'm a chatty catty, but getting back to the zone that you mentioned, I like to golf. I call my clubs weapons of grass reduction. And out of the 100 and something strokes that I'll take on an 18-hole course, there'll be that one stroke that is perfect. You know what I mean? You hit the ball, it goes, a lot further than you expected it to go. It's straight, and you didn't even feel it come off the face of the club. Okay. And that's why I go back for another round, just try to capture that moment again. But they are rather elusive, aren't they?
Yeah. To have everything line up, to be perfectly in the moment, be able to run through it. There's times that I run into it and see it happen. And it'd be interesting how other people have, observed that happening. What is that zone and what do you do to get into that zone?
I think Esther wanted to contribute there.
Yeah, I was totally think that Mule said it beautifully. To be in the zone, that you don't have to be religious. Actually, being religious might stop you from being in the zone, because then you are actually following the norms or the rules or the way that religion might see things. So yes, you can look at a religion for inspiration, but to be really in the zone, we have to be free. We can be inspired, but we have to be free. We have to really be free in the way we see life, and also even be free with how we see what we think we are about ourselves. So we have to really see life like a child, like innocent, and thinking, wow, this is magic. Again, we go to the magic. This person came to me and told me this, or this happened and invited me here, and then so there is a range of interactions that can take us to an experience that will take us to a different type of perception. Of course, if we are drunk and we only want to have fun, then every experience could be really the same. Every experience could bring us this type of feeling that, oh, I'm just feeling drunk, or I'm just eating and I feel satisfied, I'm having a nice chat. But it's much more deeper than this. This is why I'm asking for meaning. What is the meaning? Why did you meet this person? Why did you have that chat? Why did this happen to you? For example, I finished working here. I was working in this company. It was a pharmaceutical company, and a lot of things happened to me that I could never say that was a coincidence. I, for example, finished my job, and somebody in the communications department wanted to interview me. And at the end of my job, because I created a group for foreigners in the company. And when I was walking to the cafe, I fell on the street, and I was thinking, what is the meaning? What is the meaning? Why am I falling on the street when I'm going to go and see these people? And then I could really feel that then I was totally then misaligned from this employer. I was not supposed to work with them or be with them anymore. I had loads of little accidents before I finished the job as well. My computer broke several times, and it was completely new computer. The fan broke. I got a new computer 1 month before I left, and it broke again. So many things that happened. I was thinking, obviously there is a meaning. Even my boss said to me, and I could see she was not religious or not really that spiritual. She was saying, you're supposed never to come back. And I said, I'm sure I'm not coming back because so many things happened that for me was like, okay, I should not even consider it to ever come back to this company or to ever go back to this type of job ever again. I'm here to do something much deeper and much meaningful in life than just work and earn money and whatever, pay taxes. So, yeah.
So do you think that if you're more of an extrovert, I mean, obviously, I don't think there's anybody on this session that is an introvert. Do you think that if you're an extrovert and you have no qualms about chatting up whoever it might be, saying hello, or just general passersby, you greet them, do you think that kind of increases the likelihood of serendipity occurring?
Sorry, I missed my internet left for a
Yeah,
minute.
that's right. So the question is, if you're outgoing and you have a tendency to meet more people, does that increase the probability of serendipity occurring?
I would say if you are an outgoing person, extrovert person, and you are meeting, you are very much a driven person, a lot of more interactions are going to happen to you because you desire them. You want them to happen. So if you are just somebody who is very introvert and doesn't want to meet people, it's like now, I'm not going out now for days, I'm at home. So not many things are happening to me. If I go to a party and I start talking to everybody, I'm going to hear a lot of different things. I'm going to even experience lots of different things. You know, so it's very much, of course, if you are into a role of action taken and you're doing a lot of things, then you have more probability of more things happening to you. But coincidences are more meaningful in the sense of the serendipity thing, you know, that they happen there because it's something you need to really experience for some reason. But you might not understand it or perceive it if you don't really sit and, you know, you become a little bit meditative about what has happened to you, why this happened to you.
So I'll give you an example of something that happened to me. This is about 20 years ago. I was lecturing at Tech Monterey, okay? And I met, you know, a bunch of students, and one in particular, he and I got along very well, even though I'm, at the time, I still am, the age of his father. But we conversed, and he went to the United States for university, and I wrote him a letter of recommendation. Very, very, you know, very bright individual. Fast forward, you know, 10 years, and, you know, we're working for an aerospace company in the States, and I have a leadership development team that, in addition to being leadership development on this particular engagement with an aerospace, owned a fitness franchise, you know, fitness center franchise, and they're interested in expanding into Mexico. So, you know, here it is. This is something that, you know, took 10 or 12 years to percolate, to the gestation period. The opportunity was a 12-year gestation period. But before you know it, I'm putting them in touch with my connection in Mexico. We put together a team. We move this fitness center franchise or expand them into Mexico. And I guess it's one thing to meet people, but then it's another to catalog them, if you will, recognize who they are, what they're capable of. Most important, keep in touch with them over time, especially if they have that certain little flair about them, something unique about them that you can't quite put your finger on, but it will reveal itself in its own good time. I mean, I guess some people might call that karma, but being more of a Zen existence. But, you know, I think that's important, not just to meet and greet and forget, but to meet and greet and, you know, memorialize the opportunity in the back of your brain for some confluence that might occur in the future.
Yeah, there's times where I think that you know, you mentioned this about introvert versus extrovert, and I keep going back to, you know, introverts actually will talk to people. It's just that they are much better at one-on-one conversations than they are in group settings. That's definitely a difference. And Esther was talking about the frequency. And I was thinking also, it's not just the frequency. If you don't have a lot of interactions, but then the interactions can be more meaningful because they aren't something that you do all the time. And so you
Right.
could be somebody who's very outgoing, and every time that you hit an airport, you hit the airport bar, you have a conversation with whoever you're sitting next to, or with the bartender or whatever. You get on the airplane, you have a conversation with them, and there's that kind of traveler. And then there's the traveler that they read their book. They don't go to the bar. They sit there in the chair at the gate, and they have their headphones on, and you don't get through them. but maybe they have a conversation with the one person who truly intrigued them. It's, to me, all of this is tied to, causal, is how much you're committed to making a connection.
It's funny you
So
mentioned that, 'cause
if you're
when-
not committed to making a connection, then the magic doesn't happen.
right.
But if you commit to make a connection, if you're going to have a conversation, you make a connection. Maybe just one conversation you have each day versus 15 or 20 or 50. But you make that commitment to have the conversation, then magic happens. And it kind of reminds me of a quote that gets, it's actually a Shackelford quote, a Scottish climber, about commitment. And until one's committed, nothing happens. But at the moment of commitment, all sorts of magic happens, all sorts of opportunities. And Esther, you said religion, but I think about it as more from a spiritual light. At the moment of commitment, providence moves, is the quote. At the moment of commitment, providence moves. Nothing happens until you make the commitment. And
Yeah, but-
so are all these connections that we make based off of, we make a simple commitment to have the conversation.
Yeah, but Mule, Mount Everest is littered with the bodies of people that were committed, right? So maybe we should just also calm down a little bit.
Well, committed, I could also be committed to a institute for mental health along the way. Commitment means a lot of different things.
Yeah. Well, listen, I think that we should wrap this up. It's been very, very engaging conversation. Esther, love having you on board. You always inject an additional dimension into the conversation than us knuckle dragging guys do. So I really appreciate you joining us today.
Hey, I take that personally.
Well, I was speaking specifically of you, Don.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate it. Considering how highly I think of you, Joe, back at you.
Yes, I know. So great. So thanks for joining us for another episode of the Outliers Inn. I'm JP and my co-host is Mule. We've had some great guests there in Esther and Don, the beer man. So all I got left to say is don't drive like my brother.
And don't drive like my brother. Take care, everybody.
Take care.
Have a good day.
You have been listening to another episode of the Outliers Inn with your hosts, Joseph Paris and David Schneider. This program is produced by the Operational Excellence Society and sponsored by Zonatech Consulting Group International.